Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is Ship Updates. Now, the big news a couple of weeks ago, of course, was the fact that CIG revealed that the Idris is coming to Star Citizen in a limited fashion. It is the exterior, not the interior. And, while it is going to be cool, of course, owners of the Idris and other players as well were kind of, hoping for the actual Idris to turn up in game, but it seems that is going to be a while. Yes. The reasoning behind it, of course, from 2 weeks ago, if you watched the episode, you'll already know part of that reason. I had already kind of given it away, which is, meshing it up with performance capture. The problem is that the Idris's interior, while every time we see it in a video certainly looks impressive, even going back 2 years, CIG was talking about having to make adjustments to the interior. I reiterated that 2 weeks ago, saying this is probably one of the reasons why the Idris is, still something that's being worked on, is taking performance capture from 2015, 5 years ago, and meshing it up to a ship that has been rescaled since then and has since become, closer and closer to a finished asset. And trying to get all these things to work within that environment is probably one of the challenges that CIG is facing with Squadron 42. Or obviously one of the reasons that they just gave, and probably going to be a reason with some of the other ships as well, especially some of the big ones that feature very heavily in Squadron 42. And it may be one of the, it may be a secondary reason as to why we're not seeing these ships. Is that on the one hand, yes, they want to preserve the ooh and the ah factor, but maybe the interiors are constantly in flux as they're trying to find a way to mesh it up with the performance capture from so many years ago to make it work as a game. That could be one of, the big things that's kind of holding Squadron 42 back. Now, one of the other things that they did get into, and I think that it was one of the things that when they started talking about it, I started to get a little concerned. And by the end of it, though, I was very happy with what they said, and I went, oh no, okay, they get it, they understand. I don't have to make a video about this other than to praise it. They talked, of course, about Multicrew, how easy is it going to be to operate in Idris, and they went into a lot of detail about the different crew stations that would have to be manned to enable the different functions of the vessel. A flight control officer, a navigator, a weapons officer, security, things like that. And they talked about all of these things while they were talking about the Idris and a lot of the limitations that a lot of people don't perceive when they get into a ship as a single player, especially in the universe with the limited functionality that we currently have. A lot of people aren't really perceiving the true complexity that a lot of these larger ships have. And CIG, was talking about a lot of these different roles and a lot of these seats that would have to be filled. Now, can they be somewhat automated with NPCs? We don't know. We assume so, and I think that is a reasonably safe assumption, but how it's all going to end up, we'll have to wait and see. But overall, there was a little bit more that they went into, not moving on to an interview with Dave Coulson, which I think really sealed the deal and made me kind of think, okay, they're on the right track. Now, whilst in, answering questions, Dave Coulson happened to mention the fact that he had recently been in a meeting with CR, Chris Roberts, and of course, they had discussed the idea of handing off roles to different people on a ship. So the captain kind of oversees everything, weapons officer, navigation, things like that. And they were talking about these kind of very rigid framework and ideas. And they went into a lot of detail about managing engineering. It's a very good episode. And I think you should really watch the latest Calling All Devs. If I remember, I'll put a link in the description below. But, they were talking about it, and they were talking about it in a very rigid sense. And that's where I started to kind of go like, ooh, I don't know. Because one of the things that with Star Citizen is the idea that not all ships conform to kind of a rigid military structure of these people are in charge of this, these people are in charge of that. In certain ships, depending on, crew size, availability of certain things, or just the way that you and your friends are used to playing, different roles can hybridize. And you can have different people in charge of different things, or two people in charge of the same thing, whereas one is a backup to the other. And so because, Star Citizen ships aren't so formulaic that, each one has a defined seat for a defined role and only that role, you have to have some leeway. And one of the things that Dave said that kind of made me go like, okay, no, they get it, they understand, is that players will have agency over a system like this, and that we will be able to design the roles and give them permissions based on the needs of our ship or our play style. So that, at first I was listening to this rigid system and I went, oh no, I'm already thinking of like 10 changes that you need to make, and I'm thinking of every ship, like what about a cutlass, and I'm the pilot but I'm also the captain, and how do you and it was turning it into a bit of a nightmare video. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, they get it, we're going to be able to define it ourselves. Now, I mean, it could be a little cumbersome. I don't know if we're going to have to come to a point where we have to design a different system for every ship that we fly, or every group of people that we fly with. Who knows? But at its core, it is a very good idea to give players the agency and let them define the rules and the parameters. That was an amazing thing to hear. Because the way they were kind of getting into it before, it sounded like they were going for the rigid system. And please don't do that. Just let us handle it for you. And thank God they did. Now, while in Squadron 42, multi-crew gameplay is obviously not going to be all that crucial, in a game like Star Citizen, multi-crew gameplay is probably going to be one of the things that kind of defines the game. Because as we're getting used to these ships, as we're getting used to playing with other people, I think that forming those social connections and forming a connection with NPCs, I think is going to definitely yield benefits in the performance and the handling of ships. I think that right now what we are getting is a kind of a low fidelity version of what these ships are going to be, properly handled, fleshed out with all their systems in place, and with a crew to manage these different functionalities within a ship. Right now we're just kind of experimenting with the bare bones basics, yes, even this many years on. And I think that, it's things like this. When CIG says things like this is when I go like, okay, yes, 100% you're getting it, you understand. There are times like hover mode where it's like, you know about this Star Citizen game, right? That you're developing. You've seen it before. But there are times like this when it's like, no, these guys totally get it. They're on the right track. And this was one of those moments. So it's a great episode to watch. They go into a lot of depth talking about a lot of different roles, what it's going to be like to be a chief engineer. Very much worth the watch. I'll do my best to remember to put a link in the description below, but chances are you've probably already seen it. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.